getting ranked for a handful of core keywords is very important, and it's the starting point. Okay, finding and identifying those important keywords is where you need to start. Okay, but that is only a means to an end. That is literally the tip of the iceberg.
Hey guys and gals, this is Trevor once again with the CarrotCast, and you guys have already heard about our guest today, Matt Dalbey. I'm really excited to not just introduce you guys to Matt, but also bring him on so you guys can see he's a real person. Because I know if you guys are a Carrot member, you guys are very experienced with seeing Matt in our marketplace and working with this team, likely, and talking with him. But one thing that we haven't really had a chance to do a whole lot is really get Matt on camera. I know we did a webinar a year or so ago on pay-per-click, and I'm just crazy excited to have you on here, man, face to face, and really talk about some cool stuff. Talk about some things that real estate investors can do to ramp up their leads using SEO and really gain consistency and predictability in their business. But before we go into that stuff, I want to give people a little bit of a backstory on how Matt and I connected and kind of where we are now. And then I'll turn it over to you. But Matt and I, we've been working together for 2 years, maybe 2.5 years now, almost since the beginning of Carrot. It's been a while.
Something like that.
Yeah, and my chief technology officer here at Carrot had been working with Matt for years, and on multiple different projects. And when it came down to us wanting to team up with a team that knows what they're doing on SEO, who has some real estate experience, they don't just do SEO for plumbers, and they don't even know what buying real estate is. Matt was the first one we called, and being honest, I think a lot of people who have gone and talked to SEO companies and things like that, it's kind of one of those things that you don't really know what you're getting into a lot of the times. People are kind of afraid of it because they've heard the horror stories, and I think that's how it was with us as well. Not that we didn't trust Matt, but anytime you're going to dive into SEO with anyone new, because I know quite a bit about SEO, it's like, oh man, I hope that they're going to be able to deliver the level of service that we want. And they blew us away, and they continue to blow us away. So we're going to be showing you guys, giving you guys some really good tips today on what you guys can do to crack through those rankings. If you're, maybe it's really tough to kind of get that ranking in Google for that keyword you're looking to rank for higher. There's going to be some stuff we're going to be diving into today. It's going to help you with that. And I know Matt's got some amazing stuff he's going to share. And what my ask for you guys listening to this CarrotCast or watching the video on our website is take some notes and implement one thing from this call before dinner tomorrow, okay? And that's one really crucial thing here, guys and gals, is I heard a quote from someone way back in the day that learning without application, basically you're a librarian, right? I mean, that's what librarians do. They learn without actually applying the stuff that they're learning from most of the time. And we don't want to do that. We want to go out there and learn and apply and take action on those things that we know that can make happen. So welcome, Matt, onto the call to this CarrotCast. And dude, happy to have you. Welcome on board.
Thanks, Trevor. Glad to be here, man.
Yeah, so to give people a little bit of context, so I'm in Roseburg, Oregon, small town in Oregon, about 2.5 hours south of Portland. You're in Medford, Oregon, which is about 90 minutes south of me. Dude, how did you land in Medford? Where'd you come from? Because I know you're not originally from Oregon. How'd you land here?
With my type of work that I'm in with internet marketing, we have clients that are all over the place, and I can live pretty much anywhere I want, which is great. And we really like Medford. We researched quite a bit, different places to live. We love the location and just kind of the weather as well. So that's one of the big draws that brought us here. Mm-hmm. I'm originally from Montana, moved from there. As you can tell, I love the great outdoors, the scenery, more not really small towns, but rural areas. Like to kind of Medford's about I don't know 100,000 or so. Mm-hmm. Love it here. So traveled quite a bit, and we're plan is to stay here for a while. So,
dude, Medford's a cool town. I mean, we just growing up myself. So I grew up in Klamath Falls, of course, and you know that. But for those of you guys listening and watching the CarrotCast, I grew up in Southern Oregon in a different small town, which is like an hour, kind of a jump over the hill. And Medford was always kind of like the big brother to Klamath Falls. If we wanted to go do some real shopping, you went to Medford, because Klamath Falls is a small town. So we went to Costco in Medford and we'd go to the big mall and stuff like that, which is kind of funny because then as soon as we moved up to Portland, we would start to talk to Medford people, and they're like, "Oh, I'm going to Portland to go shopping." I'm like, it's so funny how there's always that kind of the next best thing. But Medford is a great community, and I'll actually be going through there here in about a week or two. And we need to connect, dude. So when I'm down there in Clown Falls on my vacation, me and a buddy of mine who lives in Medford are going to go mountain biking somewhere in the mountains between. I'll let you know if that's something you wanted to join us on. It'd be kind of cool.
Absolutely.
But, well, dude, let's kind of dive into what people came here for. So search engine optimization. I know on today's CarrotCast, I don't really want to focus on the basics. What is SEO? What's a title tag? That kind of stuff. There's all kinds of resources people can find there, both on our blog, on your website. Just Google what is a title tag, and you'll find a bajillion pages that'll show it. So kind of one of my rules here on the CarrotCast is anything that you can Google and find on page one, we try not to be diving into that stuff. So this is kind of stuff that's more specialized. This is stuff that you want to talk to an expert about that really comes with 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years of experience in doing something. And with you, Matt, and I'm just going to give people some context for the expertise that you're going to bring to this call. So in some of the most competitive markets in the country, Houston, Portland, I can keep on naming them. Some of those markets where, honestly, we would tell the client, we'd say, man, you're probably not going to get to a number one ranking, because those websites have been there a while. It's going to be really tough, and there's tons of competition. Matt and his team pulled those number one rankings, and was doing all what's called white hat. It's not going out there and buying a bunch of links from Fiverr.com and letting her fly and seeing what's going to happen. And so they're pulling these rankings in crazy competitive markets over and over and over again using a methodology and a system that they're very, very good at. And doing SEO the right way is not oftentimes easy. It's not as easy as going to a website and buying a link. It's not as easy as going and clicking some buttons and having some SEO magic happen. There's got to be some work in analyzing your competition, picking the right keywords, and really having that long-term mindset. And I want to kind of start with the long-term mindset part of it. Just your experience with doing SEO and pay-per-click way before Carrot with all kinds of non-real estate clients, and now the tons of clients you've been working with us directly on. Dude, what's the biggest mistake you think people make when it comes to SEO, especially on the mindset side of it?
It's interesting, Trevor. I just got to say to the audience, Trevor and I did not compare notes before this call, and we're so on the same page. It's amazing, Trevor. I'll just tell you that. You'll find that as the conversation unfolds. One of the things, probably the main thing, is having the right mindset. Not to steal that, I literally had written that down. Mindset and methodology before money. And I think that the thing that we thought through it and looked at, all the clients we've worked with over the years, investors included, and we asked ourselves the question, what's the, not only ones that we've worked with, but just in general, what are the common threads or the common things that differentiates or sets apart a business that's being wildly successful at SEO, and the ones that are not. And what we came up with was one main common thread, and that is having the right mindset. Mm-hmm. And it might sound trite, but it's absolutely true. And that is the foundation to success. And if you can grasp that as a business owner, as someone who's embarking upon SEO, you will outperform 98%, if not more, of your competition, guaranteed. Because like having a business or starting a business, it's the belief that knowing that this is going to work, period. I just need to stick it out in the up times and the down times. Because in the down times, there's an opportunity to learn and grow from that. And as long as your overall trend is up, whether it's rankings, traffic, revenue growth, whatever the case is, that's a good thing. Just like the stock market, there's ups and downs. But you got to have that stick-to-itiveness, if that's a word, to ride those out and have the right mindset. It really doing SEO well requires a shift in paradigm. It really, really does. And that is what we have seen more than anything that sets apart those investors who are absolutely killing it and the ones who are just eking out a living, really.
And we're talking about mindset here, and
Uh-huh.
that's dude, that's one of my that's one of my favorite. I could talk hours on mindset stuff just on the things that I've learned and the mistakes I've made, and it's just I love the topic because when you nail the way that your mind thinks, when you nail the way that you pre-frame your experiences, both current, past, and future experiences you hope to have, the mindset, your mind is the biggest lever point in all of it. And one example, and this is one that you and I are very intimately aware with, and Stuart's probably going to watch this because he's been on a tear lately, and he's a mutual client of ours. And hopefully, Stuart, I'm not going to mention your name or anything, but hopefully you don't mind me throwing this out there that Stuart's been with us for probably a year and a half or so, and it was cool, maybe even longer than that. It was cool. We actually met him up there in Portland, and we were having a Carrot team retreat, and we did a jet boat ride, and we had an extra ticket, and we gave Stuart a call because we knew he was in Portland, and we got to hang out with him, and his journey on the SEO side of things has been what I would characterize as the prototypical journey. And he's a guy who has been investing for years. He's not a person who just read the book on real estate and just decided to maybe do this, try it for a couple months. I mean, Stuart's been doing it for years. And when you shift over into SEO, it's definitely a different ballgame. It's not getting some postcards or some direct mail letters and getting them into people's mailbox, and getting calls immediately. And it's not pay-per-click where you can start paying for some traffic and getting those clicks today and possibly getting leads in the next 24 to 40 hours. It's not those at all. But without sounding like I'm detracting from SEO, I think it's a good thing that SEO is harder because, number one, I think it's more consistent and predictable over the long term.
Yep.
Short term, it's not. But also, number two, when it's harder, you have less competition doing it. And I know Stuart in the Portland, Oregon market, he was just crazy frustrated, month 5, 6, 7 or so, if I remember right. Even though we always prep people for it, it's like, hey, if you're in a competitive market, you got to be in it for minimum 12 months. And you got to be ready to get no leads in the first 10 or 12 months. If you get leads, awesome. That's a bonus. But if you don't, you got to be ready for that. And he pushed through, and he had some frustrations. He's kind of wondering if the process was working. And then, bam, it's something I call the ranking sprout. When you're sitting in a spot for a while, and then all of a sudden, sometimes no rhyme or reason, you bump up a half a page or 4 or 5 spots or something. And he had that ranking sprout run one week, and his leads went way up. He's ranking number 1 in his market all over the place now. And he sent a message through us the other day that said he's closed at least 6 deals this year alone from that ranking. So kind of walk through some of those mindset shifts that the Stuart went through that other people should really go through before they implement anything with SEO that you've experienced in working with investors, but also other entrepreneurs.
Yeah, and to do that, and that's a good example. What Stuart experienced is very typical, especially with businesses who have maybe a brand new website. Think about it this way. Especially if you have a new website, you're starting from zero in terms of rankings out of the gate, right? Literally, you're competing against hundreds of millions of other pages. Now, that shouldn't sound too daunting because, Carrot knows what they're doing. They provide great advice to help you overcome that challenge. And of course, we know what we're doing as well. And so it's not impossible. And we're helping people get ranked all the time. But it does take time, and it's part of Google's algorithm that those who prove themselves over a period of time are going to see continued success and continued growth. In other words, if you just are a flash in the pan and you pop to the top and then disappear, that doesn't do anything for your business. If you want a business that's sustainable and continue to grow, then doing something that's sustainable, like Trevor said, that's residual, predictable, is something that is going to fit with that model. So the mindset for SEO needs to match the mindset for your business too. If you just want to get rich quick, just stick with something else, do something else. But what I want to do is just share a couple of examples. An example from another investor that felt the same way Stuart did, and tell you his story and what happened. And then I want to share with you a quick story. Mm-hmm. That's told in Napoleon Hill's one of Napoleon Hill's book. You probably know the one I'm talking about, Trevor. Yeah. So I'm just going to read this. This I didn't write this. This investor wrote this for us, just to share with those who are maybe feeling a little down. Um, and I quote, "When I first started researching SEO marketing, it seemed like a black hole to me, but I kept thinking about how I did my own research for anything these days. Just like many of us, I go to the internet and use my favorite search engine to get information on what I'm researching. Then I thought about how my friends did research, and they all use the same process. So off I ventured into this big, dark, scary marketing approach called SEO. The first few months saw only a few results from this adventure, and I reached a point when I was ready to turn back and take a different path. Matt reminded me that SEO takes time and to continue to have faith in the process. Let me tell you, this Matt guy, he's pretty smart. I didn't tell him to ride that Edmund. I mean, he wrote that on his own. So I'm trying to to my own horn here. I'm just
no, I like, dude, toot away, man. Toot away.
Not my intention. The very next month, my lead count started taking off, and I was able to close on some pretty big deals. Even now, my leads per week continue to increase, and I've reached the point that 80% of my leads come from my SEO marketing. Good job, Matt, and the Generation Web team." So, what little bit of context for that quote? This investor. He was at the point, he was probably at about, I would say, 7-8 months, kind of that same time frame, when he called me and said, I haven't seen hardly anything. This is like flatline. I'm like, yeah, that's typical. But he hadn't experienced that before. So it did take some encouragement. But literally 3 weeks later, as he says here, he got 3 deals. I don't know how much they netted him, but I got some just rough figures, and it probably paid for 2 or 3 years of SEO service in the next few weeks. And when he wrote this testimonial for us, he was probably at about month 14 or so. So literally in a period of 4 or 5 months, he went from like nothing almost to 80% of his leads coming from SEO. And this is a typical story that I could tell over and over again. And the reason this happens, without getting into too much of the minutia, is simply based on Google's algorithm. Getting ranked, and write this down, getting ranked for a handful of core keywords is very important, and it's the starting point, okay? Finding and identifying those important keywords is where you need to start, okay? But that is only a means to an end. That is literally the tip of the iceberg. And that's why Stuart was feeling the way he was feeling at that point. He was, probably ranked number 3, really high rankings for these core keywords, but he wasn't getting much from it yet. And that's because the long tail hadn't kicked in yet, really. Okay? The long tail is the iceberg, all right? This is a snowball effect. It's how SEO works. It's just the nature of SEO. So just remember that. Get ranked for those main core keywords. And if you do SEO right, which I'm going to give you some practical tips how to do that in a little bit here. If you do it right, if you do it well, if you do it consistently, and don't give up, I guarantee it's going to work, and you're going to be amazed, and you're going to say, wow, why wasn't I doing this sooner?
And let me, before you move on real quick, Matt, let me throw something at you. So you mentioned the long tail, and that's something you guys can Google. You can find that on page 1 in Google. But I do want to throw a couple little tidbits out there. So the long tail, we've done content on this at Carrot. That's where the majority of those searches come from. So to give people clarification, let's say one of the core keywords you're going after for a motivated house seller, as an example, is sell my house fast in Medford, as an example. There's all these variations of that people are going to type in. There's longer versions of it. How to sell my fire damaged house fast. Sell a house I inherited quickly in Southern Oregon. Like, there's all these phrases that are longer and bigger and little bit different. That like Matt's mentioning, when you do SEO right, when you have your page set up correctly, the technology that your website is built on is set up correctly, the content on the words is set up correctly, and all the minutia but very important stuff like your anchor text on your backlinks and your backlink profile and all this techie stuff that I could start throwing out at you. When that stuff is done right, like Matt's saying, now you're not focusing on just those 5 searches. You're now being able to go after hundreds or thousands possibly of related searches, because Google now thinks that you're a credible and legitimate website after all that time of kind of being seasoned in the search engines and doing the right things. And it is huge. That's really where the beef that comes in. We released a pay-per-click report this year with the company, and they did a ton of analysis on keywords for pay-per-click. And it was something like 3 million keywords in this whole analysis, over 5,500 motivated seller leads. And one of the cool things about that report is, I don't remember what the percentage was, but it was something like 95%. It was a lot. It was a lot. The majority of the keywords or the phrases that people searched had not ever come up on one of their accounts before, which means it's probably a long tail keyword phrase that you probably wouldn't be optimizing specifically for that on a post. But if you're doing SEO right, one of your pages could pop up, just like Matt mentioned. It's huge. That's huge, man. So what's next? So focusing on those core keywords is hugely critical. Like you said, having that patience. What's another thing that people should and could be doing to really ramp up their leads with the web?
Well, there's actually 3 specific things that I think are more important than anything when it comes to tapping into that those long tail keywords. And by the way, where that terminology long tail comes from, it's a statistical term. So if you think of like a normal bell curve, right? Mm-hmm. You have the middle of the bell curve, which are kind of the more common keywords, and then you have the long tails, right, down on either side of that bell curve. And those keywords, the long tail versions, are come about, and you get ranked for them. You can get ranked for them directly and indirectly. In fact, another investor client of ours, we started out doing some SEO for them without doing a lot. We did a few little things in a specific city for that market, just one city. And then they came to us and said, "Hey, let's ramp this up. We want to do even more SEO. We want to start building some amazing backlinks, things like that, for a larger metro area in the same state." When we started doing that, a few months in, they literally started getting deals from all over that entire state. Talk about long tail. So again, if you do it right, indirectly, Google just puts together the pieces from there. If you do it well, they kind of just take care of the rest. And I'm definitely oversimplifying it, but that is how it works if done right. But Trevor, if it's okay, I'd like to share this story before I jump into those 3 specific things.
Totally, dude. Yeah.
Because it really illustrates better than any story I've heard thus far the importance of methodology and mindset before being focused on, hey, I got to get money now. Now, obviously that's the end goal, but you have to. If you don't get the money right away, you need to be satisfied with, I can wait a little bit longer, assuming I'm doing it right. Yeah. So there's a story that's told of a gold miner. His name was R.U. Dalbey, and he went to Colorado and was looking for gold, right? Drills went down. He went and found what looked to be a really large gold strike. He didn't even have the money for the machinery, right, to get mine all this gold out. So he kind of like covered it up, told his family, collected the money from his family, got them to help out with the venture. And once he got that, he came back with the machinery and started digging and started making some great profits. Okay, but something happened one day. The vein of gold that he was following disappeared. It just went away. Kept digging and digging, still couldn't find it. So after a lot of work, he finally decided to quit. So he went and he sold all the machinery to a junk man for a few $100 and took the train back home to Maryland, where he was from. So some junk men are dumb, but this one was not. He called in a mining engineer to look at the mine and do a little calculating. The engineer advised that the project had failed because the owners were not familiar with fault lines. Okay, his calculations showed that the vein would be just about 3 feet from where Dalbey had stopped drilling. Yeah. That is exactly where it was found. So this junk man took millions of dollars out of that mine because this other gentleman, he didn't understand, he didn't do his homework, right? He didn't do his research, he didn't understand the methodology, and he had a mindset that gave up too early. Now, there's a story that I won't get into too much, but this gentleman, Dalbey, he learned a really good lesson from this and went into insurance. and ended up doing very well for himself. And one of the big drivers for him in being successful in insurance was this failure, this mistake that I'm sure he kicked himself for
Yeah.
for years to come. That mistake drove him on for years to come in the insurance space. So I just share that because I see that a lot, unfortunately. People say, you know what, this isn't working. And I say, it does work. You just haven't given it enough time. It's like a tree. You can't say, you know what, tree, why aren't you growing quick enough? I'm just going to yank you up to make you grow taller quicker.
Yeah.
We all know it doesn't work.
Man, and that mindset is so huge, and that translates to every part of life, right? And we're talking anything that we're wanting to do. I remember when I was up in Portland way before we started Carrot, years before, right out of college, and I was kind of in that mindset at that point in time. I gave myself a year, that first year, to not get a job. About 6-7 months in, I was getting so discouraged, and I almost went and applied to Nike at like some entry-level job just because I'm like, oh, I don't know if this is going to work. But then I realized that I didn't want to do that, and I flipped I heard this phrase from someone, it's not if but when. And
Yes.
as soon as I switched my thinking from, oh, I wonder if this is going to work, oh my gosh, is this going to happen? I switched it to, I know this is going to work because I see other people doing it. I've seen other people make it happen. If they can do it, there's nothing special about them versus me. If they can do it, it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. The only variable is time. That's it. And as soon as I switch that mindset, man, things change in a big way, because then it like frees you too. It frees you because you know it's going to happen, and you can be patient and you can enjoy the process instead of putting all this pressure on yourself. It's just amazing.
We pour thousands of dollars into keywords for our own business that we know will take us 18 months or longer.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't matter. We don't care.
Yep.
Because we know it's going to give the return, because we've seen it time and time again. And I never ask the question, how long is it going to take?
Mm-hmm.
I know it's going to work. When it happens is when it happens, but I know it's going to work.
Yep.
And if it's not happening quick enough, I need to change my strategy or do more of the same.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, that's just how SEO works. And that question I get a lot. Hey, how long is it going to take for me to get ranked? Really, that's the better question to ask is, how can I dominate my market?
Mm-hmm.
Not win, but how can I dominate my market? Because that long, what's getting ranked for a few keywords in a short period of time, that's not where it's at.
Mm-hmm.
Traffic. Quality traffic that turn into leads, that's where it's at, and that's where the long tail comes in, and that just takes a little bit of time sometimes.
And I was on that conversation thread. So I was talking with Adrian on our team today, and he lives in North Carolina, but he's out here this week for our Carrot team retreat, and he launched a new website. I think it was in Wilmington, where a new Carrot site. It was in Wilmington where he is, and he has sites in 3 or 4 markets, and I think Pittsburgh and some other ones. Anyway, he said he launched it, and he was able to get a #1 ranking within a month and a half to 2 months, because he knows SEO well and this and that. And he said one thing that he's learned is when a ranking is really easy to get, your volume is probably going to be very, very low. So he got the ranking quickly, but there just isn't much volume there, so there's not much competition. And that's kind of another part of that mindset, is that if a ranking is that easy to get and that quick to get, that it might not be worth getting that ranking, or at least worth the time. Maybe it is, but you're probably not going to get the traffic and volume from it that you may be hoping. But like in Houston with Guillermo, one of our mutual clients, that one's one of the most competitive markets in the country. And it took a while to get there, almost a year, but once you got there, I mean, it's like a steady stream for him. Mm-hmm. And it was really hard to get, but there was a lot of competition, a lot of searches in that market.
Yeah,
so.
That's a good point, Trevor. If smaller markets, it's really it's not about beating Google, it's about beating your competition. Mm-hmm. So if you have a market that's not very competitive, you may not need to do as much to get ranked. But if it's a more competitive market, like Houston, good example, then you really need to knock it out of the park. The bar is a lot higher, okay? Smaller market, lower bar, you don't need to do as much. If it's a competitive market, you really need to nail it when it comes to SEO, which there's a lot more to do, more work, more energy expended, that kind of thing. But the outcome's really big too. If you can, get to that point, when you get to that point, assuming you're doing SEO right, the payoff is going to be huge.
Man,
So,
is there,
oh,
so before you go on to your next point, I've got something I think people are probably thinking about, since we were talking
sure.
about smaller markets and bigger markets just now.
Yep.
What is the simplest version of the way that you can say it, but what is the main difference of what someone should do if they're looking to rank well for a really competitive keyword phrase in a big market? And let's say that same phrase, let's say it's sell my house fast, Houston, sell my house fast, Roseburg. Same
Mhm.
keyword, just different market. What would you do differently in those markets, knowing that one's small, one's big, competition's different?
That's a really good question. In the smaller markets, you don't have to be as exacting, for lack of a better word, when it comes to how many times you use keywords, for example, across your site. Because again, when it comes to usage of keywords, there's a long tail concept there as well. On the one end of the spectrum, you have overusage of keywords, and on the other end of the spectrum, you have what did I say? You have under and over usage, whatever.
Yeah.
So if you underuse your keywords, you're not going to get ranked. If you overuse them, you'll get penalized and you won't get ranked either. So it's all about finding that sweet spot. So in smaller markets, it's not as critical that you get as specific and exact with how many times to use those keywords all over the place as you would in a larger market. For example, you could take more of a kind of a broad brush approach. Hey, I use the keyword a certain number of times on the page, you'll be good. In larger markets, it requires a lot more analysis, keyword by keyword, to make sure you don't underuse those keywords on the page, in the meta description, the page title, and on and on and on the list goes. And you may not need to optimize as many parts of your website to that degree in less competitive markets. So that's kind of the on-page stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Link building is huge too. You're going to need to do quite a bit more link building and have it be more quality in the more competitive markets, which it's a good segue, get into those 3 points
Cool.
as far as practical things you can do there.
Yep. I love it, man. Good stuff. Good stuff.
So the reason I kind of go into spend a little bit of time talking about the mindset is because that is the foundation. And to use an analogy of a house, if you don't have a good foundation, there's going to be problems, issues later, right? There's going to be cracking walls, et cetera, et cetera. You're a real estate investor and you're watching this, you know what I'm talking about. Mm-hmm. So you got to have a good foundation. And the good foundation of SEO is having the right methodology and especially the right mindset. And Carrot is great when it comes to having the right methodology and the right mindset because there's just an endless supply of trainings and ongoing guidance, and then the sites are so much further than you would be otherwise. If you were to start, I just want to make a quick side note here. If you have a website and you're optimizing the heck out of it and you're getting people there, so what? So what if that site gets a lot of visitors, but those visitors don't turn into leads? Who really cares? And that's where the InvestorCarrot sites do a great job we've worked with a lot of different sites for real estate investors, competitors of Carrot, custom built sites, and I have never seen any site that out of the box converts at a higher rate. And if you have a site that converts at a high rate, that is literally capturing money that's sitting on the table. Mm-hmm. Visitors are right there at your door. Why not capitalize on that? And that's the beauty that is extremely valuable. Not to mention that there's a lot of SEO elements that are already built in. They're going to give you a huge head start. So SEO's got to be ongoing, but having a great head start is important because time is money. So, mm-hmm. So the first thing to cement into your DNA when it comes to SEO strategy is, again, it's not about ranking for a handful of important keywords. It's about the long tail. And so here's 3 main ways that you can tap into that those long tail keywords, which is really where the money's at, so to speak. And these are in no particular order, but the first one I want to talk about is good natural LSI keyword usage. LSI stands for latent semantic indexing. You can Google it and learn more about that. But it's basically what Trevor and I have kind of been talking about is using the keywords on your site that are natural, not just the main ones. Yes, the main ones, the core ones, the primary ones, but also related variations naturally throughout your site. And one way you can find out what those keyword variations are, simply go to Google and start typing in a keyword, and they give you in their Google instant search results, those options that come out just show up instantly below the keyword you're typing. You can also go to the bottom of the page and look for, they list related searches down there at the bottom of the page. And again, these are things that I know you've talked about, Trevor, but and there's other tools out there, that do essentially the same thing. But that's really important to do, and to use those keywords naturally and don't overuse them is really critical. So it doesn't mean you should throw in every variation. Just pepper some in here and there, and don't do it just all on one page. Put them throughout your site, because Google they're not looking at just the page you're trying to optimize. They see your whole site. So that's the first thing that, again, this is what we do. I'm just letting you guys behind the curtain here. So definitely use those natural keywords throughout the site, but don't overuse them. The second thing is, we've already kind of touched on it a little bit, and that is good long-term SEO. In other words, Google updates their algorithm on average 2 to 3 times every day, if not more. And those are simply manual updates. That doesn't include automated updates that the system itself is doing or adjusting based on patterns in the whole system. So 2 to 3 updates a day, that's a lot. And that's just Google, okay? What that means, of course, is SEO needs to be an ongoing effort. So what you want to do is look at the sites that are ranking, the pages that are ranking against you for a certain set of keywords. Okay, take a sampling of those sites across Google, Yahoo, and Bing. All right. Once you've done that, arrive at kind of an average usage of keywords on the page title, meta descriptions, all these places. Take an average. The sample, by the way, should be randomized. So just pick random pages, not just the top ranked ones, but just select some random ranked pages, in the top 10, for example, or the top 15, something like that, because that's how Google looks at it. We're talking statistics here. You don't just say, oh, that competitor that's outranking me, that one guy I don't like that's down the street from me, I'm going to go look at his site and see what he's doing. I hear that all the time. That doesn't work. Yeah. You can't copy someone's site and outrank. I mean, in fact, it's going to be a red flag. Google's going to see what you're doing. So take a good sampling and try to stay as close to that average within maybe one standard deviation if you're a statistics person as possible. And then keep doing that maybe once or twice a month. It sounds like a lot of work, and it is, but as long as you kind of keep up to date on that sort of stuff, that's one key element of successful SEO. Now, I want to clarify something. This is different than just keeping your site fresh, as you've heard, right? It's not just going to your site and updating it for updating's sake, to update it because somebody told you to, just cause, right? This is very strategic. It's analytical. It's based on real numbers and analysis, not just making stuff up and doing it to do it. So
quick question on that. So you mentioned kind of pick some of find out the averages of those sites. What things are you guys looking for to find the average on? Is it the backlink profile? Is it like kind of what are you guys doing? The keyword density? Like what is it that people should look for when they're picking
keyword
averages?
Density is one of them. Definitely make sure your keyword density is in line. To use a silly analogy, if I were but I think it'll drive the point home. Yeah. If I were trying to rank high for, I don't know, let's say something that the government offers, so to speak, tax advice or something like that. And then I'm just going to go ahead and just make up, and have a rough idea how many times I should use the keywords on the page. Well, if you're anything like me and if you're familiar with government sites, a lot of them are very verbose and wordy and lengthy, lots of words. And then compare that to, let's say you're trying to sell tennis rackets, right? And get ranked for those keywords. Lots of imagery, lots of photos on those types of sites, very few words. Okay, if you use let's say your core target keyword 3 times on the site that has 1,000 keywords or words on the page, compared to the site who has on average 100 words on that same page, your keyword densities are going to be way off.
Gotcha.
That's what I mean by doing that analysis and making sure it's in line with not only your market, but your types of keywords.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why as an agency, we don't ever take a broad brush approach to SEO. We don't just say, well, just use the keywords a certain number of times. That's the best practice. Well, if you're in a less competitive market, you could probably get by with that. But in more competitive markets or moderately competitive markets, it's less likely to work. And it's certainly going to be a lot harder to tap into that long tail.
That's good. So, what kind of tools would you suggest that people use for doing that kind of thing? I mean, and I say that as in at the same time that Carrot is developing some SEO tools. So, sometime in the future, we're going to be having some stuff. But what are you guys using right now? Because there are certain tools I use for that kind of stuff. But I'd love to know what you guys use.
We use a whole wide array of tools, and some of them are proprietary that we've kind of developed in-house.
Mm-hmm.
So,
cool.
I mean, but basically, you could do the analysis on your own. I mean, you could literally take those sites, look at the keyword densities. You could find a free tool for keyword density. That's easy.
Mm-hmm.
And you could just take averages and make sure you're within that average of that sampling of sites, and just keep up to date on that.
Cool.
Once or twice a month. So.
Really good advice. Awesome, man. So what's the third point? What's the third one?
The third one, and last but not least, certainly, is link building. Mm-hmm. A common question I get when it comes to link building is, what can I do to help, with the SEO? Even if a client, an investor is paying us to do the SEO, I get that question sometimes, and that's great. If you have the time to help out, so to speak, with SEO, this is an answer I give people every single time when that question comes, and it's related to link building. So I'm going to talk a little bit about what's important for link building, but first I want to give you some quick tips on what you can do practically every day, like Trevor said, tonight or tomorrow night, and start working on it now. And that is do what only you can do. What you have certain connections, right? As a real estate investor, as a business owner, that we as an SEO agency, for example, don't have. You know people that we don't know. Tap those people, so to speak. Go talk to them. It could be contractors, it could be realtors, it could be hard money lenders, it could be your brother who owns another business, whatever. You want to make sure that they're relevant. But if you can get one-way backlinks from those sites, two-way backlinks get ignored, but you want to get one-way backlinks for the most part. If you can, to help with SEO, then that's great. And how to structure those and how to do that, I don't know if we have time to get into all that minutia today. Carrot has some advice, I'm sure, on that. And of course, if you pay us, we just take care of it. What we usually do with clients basically is if you get those opportunities and you look like you've maybe secured an opportunity, we just say, hey, just give us a call and we can take it from there and deal with all the technical stuff, because you want, again, when it comes to backlinking, to your point, Trevor, and anchor text and all that needs to be always in balance too. It's like the butterfly effect. One little thing can offset the whole system, and so it all needs to be in cohesion and in concert with all the other variables.
So when someone's going out, you use an example. Let's say my brother owns this is a real example, I guess. So my dad and brother own a construction equipment rental place in Klamath Falls, right? They've got a website. I have access to the back end of their website. And if that was something that they agreed and said, hey, yeah, that'd be cool, what is it that I would pitch to them to get on the website? Because I'm sure some people go, okay, awesome, dude. They just like put my link in their sidebar, or like you did back in the blog roll days and stuff. Right. It's so funny, man. I remember just thinking back when I was first learning SEO, 2006, 2007, and the blog roll was a big deal. It's like everyone had the blog roll on the side of their sidebar where you like link to 30 of your favorite blogs, and then oftentimes you get them to link back to you. The cross linking, which, like you mentioned, all that stuff has changed, and stuff that worked 5 years ago, most of it doesn't work anymore, and it's just really getting down to the pure, real content, real value stuff. So, what would you suggest that I email or call my brother to do to get on that website and get a good solid backlink? And number one, is that type of website relevant?
I just break in the middle of the night since you have access and don't just.
Yeah, yeah. Exactly.
I'm just joking. You might have a strained relationship for a little bit, but
Yeah.
no.
No, that's right.
Uh, I don't know your brother. So. Anyway, no. Assuming you don't have access to the site and that it's a good thing to run it by that individual. At the end of the day, it's going to vary, but think about it this way: it's just like anything. You want to provide value to the visitors of that site, and really value to that business owner by them linking to your site.
Hmm.
That's it. That's what it's about. So it's going to be different in every scenario. In other words, maybe you write a blog post that provides value to that target audience. Put yourself in their shoes. What's important to maybe you write a blog post that has some tips on, how to take care of your equipment, or I don't know, I'm making it
Hmm.
up. And then you just let them know, hey, I was going to write this for you. Or write it and put it on their site. Offer to
Yeah.
put it on their site. You wrote it, you put it on their site, they publish it, and you get a backlink.
Hmm.
Um, so that's the way. That's one way to get a one-way backlink, because it's not one of those things where you can say, "Hey, link to me and I'll link to you."
Yep.
That's why backlinking isn't that easy, because two-way links don't really do much for you. Uh,
And I've got a couple other things that are popping up in my head here. Let's say you're a real estate investor and you have a real estate agent that you're buddies with or that you're working with. And let's say they have a blog, and rather than just going, hey, can you link to my website, and they throw you somewhere buried in their links directory page or something, like Matt was saying, come up with a piece of content, and maybe you're looking to get your cash buyer website ranked better. You write a quick little blog post on the top two neighborhoods in Medford, Oregon for buying investment properties, and then you kind of go through those neighborhoods and why they're good and show some examples. And then, like Matt was saying, you could link to one of your blog posts on your page and or in your byline. It's like, hey, this is written by Matt, blah 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 blah. You can learn more about him and what his company does at blah, and it links over to your website. Another example, dude, this one's easy. Plumbers. There's the rental equipment store. All those, they all have services that homeowners need at time to time, right? So the people that we're selling stuff to are probably people who own a home or they're looking to sell it or something. Is there something that you could write on their blog that is, educating them on what they need to do for their plumbing before they move? I'm just making stuff up here.
mhm.
It's kind of wrapping some ideas here. If it's the equipment rental store, how do you do renovations on the cheap before you go to sell your house? And then you're talking about how you can do some of the work yourself with rental equipment to get the house ready for sale. And then, oh, by the way, is written by this company. They go to your website and shoot, I don't even want to do any of that work. These guys can just buy my house before I do any of it. Cool, let me contact them. There's all kinds of things like that. Another
Sure.
idea that I've been using for years, and I didn't really mean to use it at first, but it's good. And the relevancy is a little bit different, but it's not quite as relevant there as with a mortgage broker or real estate agent site or something like that. But like charities, if you find charities that you support, truly do support, oftentimes they have a contributors page. And a lot of times they forget to put you on it. So you need to kind of, hey, would you mind throwing my website over there? And usually it's a .org, and usually a lot of them have, if they're a good charity that's been around for a long time, they have a really good page rank because they've been around for a while, and they have a lot of backlinks if they're a legit charity. That's a good way to do it. Support causes you truly love and support companies and things you truly love, and oftentimes they can give you a backlink. They're not the most relevant all the time, but if it's a good, legit site, it's something that I have found that can be a positive thing. Are there any other kind of low-hanging fruit like that people should look for?
Yeah, another idea is to think about something that could potentially be newsworthy that your company has done or is going to do.
Mm-hmm.
And it could be, to springboard off your idea, Trevor, it could be related to a charity event. Maybe you're going to do a ribbon cutting for a new business in town, or you're going to be part of that or something. Maybe you're doing some pro bono work. Who knows? It could be anything, really. Anything that's really, truly newsworthy. Contact your local or national media if you can. That's obviously a lot harder, but get in touch with local media that you may even know local media people, and try to get an article that they've written. Maybe they interview you and learn a little bit about what you're going to be doing or what you're all about, and get a link that way. And you can kind of advise them and coach them a little bit on the link sometimes, because they probably don't know.
Hmm.
And if they don't ask, just jump in there and say, hey, by the way, if you could put the link this way, that would really be great. We really don't want to provide value, but it would help us as well, that kind
Hmm.
of thing. So it just takes sitting down and thinking through and being a little creative about, how can I leverage those relationships that I have in my sphere.
Or you can just go to Fiverr.com and buy all the links you want for $5 and you're done, right? So if you guys just now tuned into the CarrotCast, reverse to the previous 40 minutes and eliminate what you just heard. Don't go to Fiverr. Don't go to those outsourcing websites and buy anything related to SEO, please. Okay. So getting good SEO, doing good SEO in competitive markets, it's going to take a little bit of work, but it's not going to take like that much. It's just going to be very consistent work over time that you're going to have to put in. You or someone that knows what they're doing. Matt, dude, this is awesome information. I know people are taking notes on it. And I know for me, the thing that I want people to walk away with from this, I mean, the link building tips are great. The other stuff you rolled out was great. The biggest thing for me is the mindset. And that's because, like you mentioned, it's the foundation. It's if we don't have that part of it down, when they are in month 4, 5, 6, 7, and they're not that mental high, of them starting the SEO and having that picture of where they believe that they're going to be, that mental high is gone, because it's 4, 5, 6 months in. They need to have that it's not if but when mindset to stick them through those times. And also, just like we teach here at Carrot, make sure you have a short-term traffic plan. If it's something that you're relying on your business to survive while you're building SEO, I would highly suggest that you rethink that and make SEO a long-term growth strategy for you. And in this next month or 6 months or year, depending on how competitive your market is, make sure you have those other things that you can do to get traffic and leads coming in. Get a pay-per-click campaign going if you have the budget for that. And we have all kinds of training online for you, and you guys can download that pay-per-click report that we rolled out, that massive pay-per-click report that we rolled out that gives you really good insights on what the most profitable pay-per-click keywords are for motivated sellers on carrot.com/ppc-keywords, on carrot.com/ppc-keywords. And there's all kinds of Craigslist, guys. I mean, there's all kinds of things that you can do to hustle in the short term to get those leads coming in, to integrate your website with your offline marketing so it's really working for you. And let the SEO over the long term take over, because I can guarantee you'll look back in a year and a half, you'll look back in 2 years, you'll look back in a year or 8 months or whatever it is for your market, and you'll go, oh my gosh, I was so silly that I was getting stressed out about that the whole time. And I can't believe how my business is right now. I have consistency, I have predictability, and now I have room to breathe in my business. I don't have the boom and bust anymore. And that's what we want for you guys. And that's what SEO can do for you if it's done right. Matt, where can people find you, man? If people want to connect with you or read, I know you have a blog where people can learn from you or just even engage with you to see if you guys it makes sense to work together. Where can people find you?
GenWebMarketing.com, GenWeb marketing.com, or you can just Google Generation Web and right at the top there. So yeah, that's the best way to find us. I did want to leave you guys with one last thing really quick from an SEO perspective, from a link building perspective. Just remember that when you're doing all this, quality matters over quantity. It's like the election, which is happening right now. Maybe you're going to be watching this after the election, but think of the two candidates, main ones that are prominent right now. If one candidate got an endorsement from a local coffee shop and the other one got an endorsement from a major senator or a movie star, which one matters most?
Yep.
Right? That says it all. That right there is what matters when it comes to link building and SEO. Quality over quantity, and Google knows that you can't fake that. And so that's why they give prominence to the sites who can do it the quality way. Those sites are going to get ranked, they're going to stay ranked, and they're going to do very, very well.
I love it, man. So I'm going to throw one question at you to wrap this up. So
Sure.
the CarrotCast, man, one of the things I'm most passionate about is really how to leverage entrepreneurship, how to leverage business to improve our lives, to amplify our communities, amplify the impact that we want to make. And also the carrot as an analogy, it's a carrot. What are you going for? What is your carrot that's dangling out there in front of you that you're going for right now? in business or life?
My career?
Yeah, dude. What are you going for? Like, what's that next step with you and in your life? What are you going after?
At the end of the day, I would do something else if this wasn't something that I didn't enjoy. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, and the enjoyment comes from seeing the results day in and day out. I've been doing this for nearly 14 years, before Google was even a publicly traded company.
Mm-hmm.
So we've seen a lot happen in that 14 years, and just seeing businesses succeed and be excited about that and kind of help them along. That if that wasn't happening, I would go do something else.
Mm-hmm.
Go work at Costco. Costco's great, by the way, but I would do something else. I wouldn't do this. But because of that, just helping people out and seeing ourselves as really just partners in the business,
Mm-hmm.
is what's exciting because we're business owners too. I get it. So
I love it. Well, guys and gals, thanks for listening to this episode of the CarrotCast. Please head over to carrotcast.com or just to our main website at oncarrot.com and find our podcast page and give us a rating. Go to iTunes and give us a rating, because that's how we can spread the message further and wider, get more people really empowered to grow their business, grow their real estate business, or like I said, even if you're a plumber and you're watching this, you can get tons of value out of this. And go out there and be that beacon of positivity and possibility in your community, in your family, in your company, and spread that goodwill, guys and gals. That's one thing we're crazy passionate here about Carrot, is being that beacon of positivity and possibility for your community. And like Matt mentioned earlier in the call, kind of creating that butterfly effect. And that's one of the reasons we started this podcast. So go out there and implement one thing from today's call to help your website rank better. Go out there and spread at least one dose of awesomeness to someone this next 24 hours, and show your gratefulness to someone in this next 24 hours as well. And keep crunching, guys. Keep pushing. Keep making a difference and making an impact with your business and your life. And we'll talk to you in the next episode of the CarrotCast. Thank you.